Captain Allison Wright took a deep breath as the massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber opened before her. The room was circular, with high ceilings that seemed to disappear into darkness above. 7 alien representatives sat in elevated seats that formed a half-circle, looking down at the single small platform where she stood. This was the moment humanity had worked toward for decades. Their application to join the Galactic Empire was about to be decided. Allison straightened her blue uniform and touched the Earth insignia on her chest for luck. She represented not just the United North American Alliance, but all of humanity. The weight of 4 billion hopes rested on her shoulders. The room was eerily quiet. The only sounds were the soft hum of the translation devices and the occasional rustle as one of the council members shifted position. The air felt cold against her skin. The Arcturian minister rose first. His tall, slender body was covered in iridescent scales that changed color as he moved. His 4 eyes, all different sizes, blinked in an unsettling pattern as he looked down at Allison. "We have reviewed Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Empire," the Arcturian said, his translated voice oddly flat in Allison's earpiece. "The Council has reached its decision." Allison nodded, keeping her face neutral despite the nervous flutter in her stomach. 6 years of negotiations, technology exchanges, and diplomacy had led to this moment. "Earth's application is denied," the Arcturian continued. "Furthermore, the Council has taken the unprecedented step of banning Earth from ever applying for membership again." The words hit Allison like a physical blow. She had expected possible delays or probationary status, not outright rejection. Never in the 20-year history of the Empire had a species been permanently banned from consideration. "Minister, may I ask on what grounds?" She managed to keep her voice steady. The Vixillian counselor, a being that looked like a collection of glowing orbs held together by crackling energy, floated forward slightly. "Human behavior is deemed too aggressive and unpredictable. Your species engages in warfare for resources, territory, and even abstract concepts like freedom and religion. That is our past," Allison countered. "Earth has been unified and peaceful for over 30 years. "A mere instant in evolutionary terms," said the Medusan representative, whose jellyfish-like body pulsed with each word. "Your technological understanding is also primitive. You achieve faster than light travel only because of schematics discovered on Mars, not through your own innovation." "With respect," Allison said, feeling her cheeks flush with anger, "humanity has made remarkable progress since finding those precursor ruins. We've developed those basic principles in tow." "We are not here to debate," interrupted the draconian counselor, his reptilian face showing what Allison had learned to recognize as contempt. "The decision is final. Earth is considered a potential destabilizing force within the Empire." Allison looked around the chamber, searching for any sign of support. The Proxian representative, whose species had originally been the most welcoming to humans, would not meet her gaze. "Captain Wright," the Arcturian said, "you are dismissed. You will be escorted back to your vessel and given standard departure protocols. Earth vessels will maintain access to the designated trading outposts at the edge of Empire space, but may not proceed further into Empire territory without special dispensation." 2 silent security drones moved to flank Allison. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides, but she kept her expression controlled. She had been trained for diplomatic crises, though nothing quite like this. "This is a mistake," she said clearly, making sure her voice carried across the chamber. "Humanity has much to offer the Empire. We hope you will reconsider your position in time." No one responded. The council members began to gather their materials, already moving on to other matters. Allison was simply a minor agenda item to be dismissed. As she was escorted from the chamber, Allison's mind raced. Earth had invested everything in joining the Empire. Their entire space program, economy, and future plans were built around eventual membership. What would this mean for humanity's place among the stars? One thing Allison knew for certain: this would not be the end of humanity's story in space. If the Empire wouldn't have them, Perhaps it was time for humans to forge their own path. As her shuttle departed from Centauri Prime, she made a silent vow that she would return someday, not as a supplicant, but as an equal. The United Nations Spaceport in Geneva buzzed with tension. World leaders from every major nation sat in a large circular chamber, their faces grim. Large screens around the room showed the Earth, peaceful and blue from orbit. Captain Allison Wright stood at the podium, still wearing her formal space uniform from the Galactic Council meeting. The journey home had taken 3 weeks, but the sting of rejection hadn't faded. "The Empire has denied our application," she said, her voice carrying through the silent room. "Not just denied. They have banned Earth from ever applying again." Gasps and angry mutters filled the chamber. President Charles Montgomery of the North American Alliance stood up, his face flushed red. "This is outrageous," he said, pounding his fist on the table. "After everything we've done to meet their requirements, after all the resources we've poured into this effort." Captain Wright nodded. "The Council cited our aggressive tendencies and primitive technological understanding as their main concerns." Senator Olivia Delgado from the South American Coalition leaned forward. "What does this mean for our trade agreements? For our access to their space lanes? We maintain limited access to the outer trading posts," Wright explained. "But we cannot travel deeper into Empire space without special permission, which will rarely be granted." The room erupted into chaos. Some leaders shouted about military responses. Others suggested complete isolation from galactic affairs. Admiral Paul Hayes sat quietly at the back of the room, his weathered face showing no emotion as he took notes on a small tablet. "Please," Wright raised her hands, "we need to think carefully about our next steps. Rash actions could make our position worse." The Chinese premier stood up. "We've invested trillions in adapting our technology to be compatible with Empire standards. Our economy is now tied to trade with outer worlds. This could ruin us." "Not necessarily," a calm voice said from the side of the room. All heads turned to see Dr. Samantha Cole walking toward the center. She wasn't scheduled to speak, but as Earth's leading physicist in faster-than-light travel, her opinion carried weight. Her curly hair was pulled back, and dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept since hearing the news. "Dr. Cole," President Montgomery acknowledged, "you have something to add. The Empire gave us access to basic FTL technology as a good faith measure during negotiations," she said, pulling up diagrams on the main screen. "But they're using outdated hyperlane technology that requires fixed entry and exit points." She switched to a different image, complex equations, and what looked like a ship design. "My team has been working on an alternative approach. We don't need their hyperlanes. In fact, our method could potentially be more efficient." Admiral Hayes finally spoke up. "Are you suggesting we develop our own independent space travel network?" "Exactly," Dr. Cole said. "The Empire thinks we're primitive. Let's show them how innovative humans can be when backed into a corner." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. "That would require enormous resources," the European Federation president said. "More than any single nation could provide." "Then we work together," Captain Wright said, stepping beside Dr. Cole. "Like we did when we first reached Mars. Like we did when we built the moon colonies." President Montgomery looked thoughtful. "How long would development take, Dr. Cole?" "With proper funding and global cooperation, 5 years, maybe less." Admiral Hayes stood up. "I propose an immediate council to explore this option. If Dr. Cole is right, the Empire's rejection might be the best thing that ever happened to us." As the meeting continued, Captain Wright and Dr. Cole stepped to one side. "Can you really deliver on this?" Wright asked quietly. Dr. Cole smiled slightly. "The Empire gave us just enough knowledge to get started. They thought it would make us dependent on them. Instead, it gave us the foundation we needed to build something better." Wright looked at the world leaders, now deep in serious discussion rather than panic. "If they won't let us into their club," Dr. Cole said, her eyes bright with determination. Perhaps it's time we started our own. For the first time since the humiliation at the Galactic Council, Captain Wright felt something like hope. Humanity had faced challenges before. They would face this one too, and they would overcome it. Together. 5 years passed quickly. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, a massive underground facility hummed with activity. The entrance looked like an ordinary military base, but 2 miles below the surface was the heart of humanity's greatest project. Dr. Samantha Cole stood in the main control room, surrounded by screens showing complex data. Her hair had more gray now, and fine lines marked the corners of her eyes. She hadn't taken a day off in years. The Pioneer Project had become her life. Progress report, she said to the team of engineers and scientists gathered around the central table. Dr. Alan Foster, head of the propulsion team, stepped forward. The new drive core is stable. Yesterday's test reached 115% of our target output. Any issues with the containment field? Dr. Cole asked. None. The adaptive shielding handled the energy perfectly. Dr. Cole nodded, allowing herself a small smile. When they had started this project, most experts said it would take 15 years, not 5. But humanity had united in a way no one expected. Countries shared resources and knowledge instead of hoarding them. The rejection by the Galactic Empire had done what centuries of diplomacy couldn't. It had truly unified Earth. The door to the control room slid open. Allison Wright entered, now wearing the uniform of an admiral. The past 5 years had hardened her. She commanded respect wherever she went, and her dedication to the project never wavered. Dr. Cole, Admiral Wright said with a nod, I hear we have good news. The final test was successful. Dr. Cole confirmed. The drive is ready for installation. And the ship. Dr. Cole switched the main screen to show a massive hangar. Inside sat a sleek spacecraft unlike anything humans had built before. It was larger than previous vessels, with smooth lines and a distinctive hull design that looked nothing like Empire ships. The ESS Pathfinder is in final assembly, Dr. Cole said. She'll be ready for her first flight in 3 weeks. Admiral Wright studied the image. Beautiful, she said quietly, and entirely our own design. No borrowed technology. Not entirely, Dr. Cole corrected. We learned the basics from the Empire, but we've gone far beyond their approach. Our system doesn't rely on fixed hyperlanes. We can create our own pathways through subspace. Dr. Foster added, it's like the difference between traveling on existing highways and being able to make your own road wherever you want to go. The door opened again, and Admiral Paul Hayes entered. Unlike Wright, whose passion drove her, Hayes was always the voice of caution. His practical approach had saved the project from several potential disasters. I see everyone celebrating, he said, looking around the room. But have we addressed the potential response from the Empire? The room grew quiet. It was the question no one liked to discuss. Admiral Wright stepped forward. Paul, the Empire made it quite clear that we're not worthy of their attention. They banned us because they saw us as primitive and aggressive. They won't expect this level of progress. And if they do notice, Hayes persisted. Dr. Cole brought up a new image on the screen. A star map showing the planned route for the Pathfinder's first journey. We're heading to Proxima Centauri first, she explained. It's close enough to be safe, but not in any direction the Empire monitors closely. By the time they realize what we've accomplished, we'll have established several independent routes. Hayes nodded, not entirely convinced. I hope you're right. I've studied their military capabilities. If they decide we're a threat, then we'll be ready, Wright said firmly. The Pathfinder isn't just an exploration vessel. It carries our most advanced defensive systems. Dr. Cole placed her hand on the screen, touching the image of the ship. This is just the beginning. We already have plans for 5 more ships, each better than the last. Admiral Wright looked around at the team. These were the best minds on Earth, working together with a single purpose. The Empire rejected us, she said. They told us we weren't good enough. That we were too primitive, too aggressive, too unpredictable. She paused, her eyes bright with determination. They made their choice. Now they'll have to live with it. Because we're not staying in our corner of the galaxy anymore. And that will be their mistake. The ESS Pathfinder emerged from the jump point near Proxima Centauri, with barely a ripple in space. On the bridge, Admiral Wright watched the view screen as a red dwarf star and its planets came into view. The ship's first interstellar journey had been smooth, much smoother than anyone had dared to hope. "Jump complete," announced Lieutenant Maria Garcia from the navigation station. "All systems functioning normally. We've arrived exactly at the planned coordinates." A cheer went up from the bridge crew. Dr. Cole, who had insisted on joining this historic mission, smiled broadly from her station. "The new drive performed 23% better than our calculations predicted," she said, checking her instruments. "We could have gone twice as far with the same energy expenditure." Admiral Wright nodded, pleased, but already focused on the next step. "Begin planetary scans. Let's see what's out here." The crew worked efficiently, scanning the Proxima Centauri system. Earth's telescopes had observed this system for decades, but seeing it up close was different. The third planet showed signs of artificial structures. "We're picking up an energy signature from the third planet," said Commander Ben Walsh, the science officer. "It's artificial. And there's something else. Ships in orbit." Wright tensed. "Empire vessels." "No," Walsh said, sounding puzzled. "The design is completely different. Nothing like Empire technology." "They've detected us," Garcia reported. "One ship is moving to intercept. They're hailing us." Wright straightened her uniform. On screen, the view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The being had pale blue skin, large dark eyes, and delicate features with no visible hair. It looked at the humans with what seemed like surprise. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in heavily accented galactic standard, the common language of the Empire. "Identify yourselves." Wright stepped forward. "I am Admiral Allison Wright of the Earth ship Pathfinder. We come in peace on an exploration mission." The alien's eyes widened. "Earth, you have traveled here without using Empire hyperlanes. We have developed our own method of faster-than-light travel," Wright confirmed. The alien was silent for a moment, then spoke to someone off-screen in a musical language the translation system couldn't interpret. When it turned back, its expression seemed lighter. "I am Kirix, first speaker of the Neverland people. We would like to invite you to our world. It has been a very long time since we had visitors not from the Empire." 6 hours later, Admiral Wright and Ambassador Daniel Rivera sat in a domed building on the Neverland homeworld. Kirix and 3 other Neverlands joined them. Through their translators, the humans learned a surprising truth. "The Empire rejected your world as well?" Rivera asked, leaning forward with interest. Kirix made a gesture that seemed like a nod. 50 Earth years ago. They said we were too primitive, that our technology and culture were not advanced enough. They permit limited trade, but nothing more. "We've discovered a pattern," said another Neverland, introduced as their lead scientist. "The Empire systematically rejects species that show certain traits: independence, innovation, potential military capability." Rivera and Wright exchanged glances. "They're deliberately keeping potentially competitive species isolated," Rivera said. "Exactly," Kirix confirmed. "They allow basic trade and limited technology transfer, but they prevent any rejected species from contacting others like them." "Until now," Wright said. "The Netherlands showed the humans their world. It was beautiful, with sweeping architecture that blended perfectly with the natural landscape. Their technology was different from both human and Empire designs, with remarkable advances in biology and medicine. Your propulsion system is fascinating," the Netherlands scientist said after Dr. Cole explained the basics. "We focused our research on biotechnology instead. Perhaps we could share knowledge." Rivera nodded enthusiastically. "That's exactly why we're here. to forge new connections. By the end of their 3-day visit, Admiral Wright and Ambassador Rivera had drafted the Proxima Accords with the Nevellan leadership. It established a framework for cooperation between Earth and the Nevellan world. "This is just the beginning," Carrick said as they prepared to depart. "There are others like us. Dozens of species, all rejected or limited by the Empire for various reasons. With your new travel technology, you could reach them where we cannot." Admiral Wright looked out at the Nevellan city glittering under its red sun. "Then that's exactly what we'll do. The Empire thought they could keep us all isolated and weak. They never considered we might find each other." A decade passed since the first contact with the Nevellans. On a space station orbiting Earth, representatives from 15 different species gathered in a large meeting hall. The station, named Unity, had been built specifically for this purpose, a neutral ground where all members of the new alliance could meet as equals. Admiral Wright, now with streaks of gray in her hair, stood to the side watching the delegates. The Proxima Alliance had grown beyond anything she had imagined that day on the Galactic Council. The main chamber buzzed with dozens of conversations in different languages, all being translated through small devices developed by combining human and Vexel technology. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" said Ambassador Rivera, joining her at the observation point. He had represented Earth in countless first contact situations over the past 10 years. Wright nodded. 15 species, 27 star systems, all working together, and all rejected by the Empire for one reason or another, Rivera added. Below them, the delegates began taking their seats around a circular table. Each species was physically different from the others. The tall, insect-like Taurans towered over the small, furry Galidians. The crystalline bodies of the Vexel collective shimmered under the lights. Yet, despite their differences, they had found common ground. Dr. Cole entered the chamber, now walking with a slight limp from an accident in her lab 2 years ago. She had never stopped working, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Her team, now including scientists from a dozen worlds, had created technologies that were beginning to surpass Empire standards. "The Empire has noticed us," Rivera said quietly. "Their ambassador sent another message yesterday. They're demanding we cease trade between Alliance worlds immediately." Wright snorted. They'd waited too long. 10 years ago, they might have been able to stop this. Not anymore. On the table in the center of the room, a holographic display showed the growing network of Alliance trade routes and colonies. Unlike the rigid, controlled hyperlanes of the Empire, these routes formed an organic web, connecting worlds that had once been isolated. President Kelly Wilson of Earth called the meeting to order. She was the third Earth president since the Alliance began, but the commitment to the project had never wavered. "Friends and allies," she began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Today we face a choice. The Galactic Empire has formally demanded that we disband the Alliance and cease all independent operations outside our home systems." A rumble of angry voices filled the room. The Nevellan representative, an older Kyrix, raised his hand for silence. "For centuries, the Empire has maintained power by keeping potential rivals separated," he said. "What they fear most is exactly what we have built. Cooperation between different species, each bringing their unique strengths." The Tauran delegate stood, her chitinous armor clicking softly. "The Tauran hives bring our expertise in material science. We have developed hull plating that withstands impacts no Empire ship could survive. The Vexel Collective offers our quantum communications network," added their representative, their crystalline form pulsing with blue light. "Our messages cannot be intercepted or blocked by Empire technology." One by one, each delegate spoke of their contribution. The Galidians advanced agriculture fed growing colonies. The Zenth provided energy technology that powered Alliance ships and stations, and humanity, with its talent for innovation and strategy, helped bind it all together. "We are stronger together than any of us could be alone," President Wilson concluded. The Empire's response was predictable. The question now is, how do we respond to their demand? Ambassador Rivera stepped forward to address the gathering. I suggest we send a simple message. 3 words. We respectfully decline. The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement, human applause, Nevelin bell-like tones, the rhythmic hissing of the torrents. Admiral Wright watched with pride. This was what she had dreamed of that day on Centauri Prime, standing before the council that had dismissed humanity as unworthy. The Alliance was no longer just a group of rejected worlds huddling together. It was becoming a power in its own right, different from the Empire in both structure and philosophy, but every bit as significant. The Empire had tried to contain them all. Instead, they had created their greatest rival. The Empire's response to the Alliance's refusal came swiftly. Imperial ships established blockades at key trade points, attempting to choke off the flow of goods between Alliance worlds. But Dr. Cole's alternative FTL technology allowed Alliance ships to simply bypass these checkpoints, jumping directly to their destinations without using the traditional hyperlanes. In the command center of Unity Station, Admiral Wright reviewed the reports coming in from across Alliance space. The large screen showed the positions of Empire and Alliance vessels. They're getting desperate, she said to her aide, Commander Lisa Chen. Their blockades aren't working, and now they're sending patrols deeper into what they used to consider unclaimed space. Commander Chen nodded. The Empire didn't expect us to have such an effective alternative to their hyperlanes. They built their entire control system around controlling those routes. An alert flashed on the main screen. Admiral Hayes, now commanding the Alliance Defense Forces, appeared via hologram. Right, we have a situation, he said, his face grim. The Empire has launched an attack on our colony on Proxima Centauri IV. Wright felt her blood run cold. Casualties. Heavy, Hayes replied. They hit the main settlement with no warning. Thousands dead or injured. Dr. Cole's husband was there, supervising the new research facility. Wright closed her eyes briefly. William Cole had been a brilliant engineer in his own right, and his loss would devastate Samantha. Any word from Dr. Cole? She asked. She's been informed, Hayes said. She's requested to remain at her post. Said she wants to finish what they started. The attack changed everything. Until now, the conflict had been limited to posturing and economic pressure. This was a direct military action against civilians. An emergency meeting of the Alliance Council was called immediately. The chamber was tense as representatives from all member species gathered. This is clearly an act of war, said the Tauran representative, her voice sharp with anger. We must respond with our full military force. President Wilson shook her head. A direct military confrontation plays to the Empire's strengths. They have more ships, more soldiers. But their technology is increasingly outdated, countered the Zenth delegate. Our newest vessels can outmaneuver anything they have. Admiral Hayes displayed a strategic map. We could strike at their shipyards at Rigel, or their command center at Arcturus. Dr. Cole entered the chamber, her face pale but determined. Everyone fell silent. They all knew what she had lost. There's another way, she said quietly. One that doesn't immediately escalate to full war. She brought up a different display, showing trade routes and resource flows throughout Empire space. Several Empire worlds have become dependent on certain resources that come through backdoor channels from Alliance space, she explained. Medicines from Nivala, rare minerals from the Tauran worlds, food products from Galidia. They're officially banned by Imperial policy, but local governors look the other way because their worlds need these goods. You're suggesting we cut them off, President Wilson said thoughtfully. Precisely, Dr. Cole nodded. Not a military strike, but targeted pressure. The Empire thinks of itself as self-sufficient, but it's not. And the worlds that will suffer most are the ones on the Empire's edges, the ones already questioning Imperial policy. The Council debated for hours, but in the end, they approved Dr. Cole's plan. Alliance ships would continue to defend their territory, but instead of launching counterattacks, they would implement a targeted embargo of critical resources. Within weeks, the effects became apparent. On 3 Empire worlds, local populations protested food shortages. On others, hospitals couldn't treat patients without benevolent medicines. Imperial governors sent urgent messages to the central government, demanding solutions. Meanwhile, Admiral Wright prepared the Alliance fleet for the possibility that the Empire might escalate further. Their newest ships, incorporating technology from all member species, were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They struck at us thinking we would either crumble or respond exactly as they would, Wright told her captains. They don't understand what we've built here, not just ships and weapons, but a different way of existing in this galaxy. And that's why, in the end, we'll win. The internal pressure within the Empire continued to build. 3 months after the Alliance implemented their resource embargo, the unthinkable happened. 3 Empire worlds, Teleris, New Gaia, and Vallon, formally announced their secession. Their leaders sent a joint message to the Alliance requesting admission as new members. On Unity Station, the council chamber erupted in celebration when the news arrived. This was a diplomatic victory beyond anything they had imagined. But Admiral Wright remained cautious. The Empire won't let those worlds go without a fight, she warned the council. This will force them to take more aggressive action. She was right. 2 days later, the Empire launched a full military offensive against Alliance space. Dozens of Imperial warships pushed across the borders, heading toward key Alliance worlds. At the Alliance Defense Command Center, Admiral Wright and Admiral Hayes worked around the clock coordinating their response. Their fleet was smaller, but their ships were faster and more advanced. The question was whether it would be enough. We need to draw them into a decisive battle on our terms, Hayes said, studying the tactical display. Somewhere we can use our advantages. Wright pointed to a star system on the map, Wolf 359. It's a natural choke point, and our sensor network there is the most advanced. Hayes nodded grimly. We'll need every ship we can muster. The call went out across the Alliance. Every combat-capable vessel was directed to Wolf 359. The naval and medical ships prepared for casualties. The Tauran heavy cruisers, with their nearly impenetrable armor, would form the defensive line. Human and Zenth vessels, with their superior speed and maneuverability, would lead the attack squadrons. The night before the battle, Wright couldn't sleep. She walked the corridors of her flagship, the EFS Defiant, checking in with crew members and ensuring everything was ready. When she reached the science lab, she found Dr. Cole still working. You should rest, Wright told her old friend. Dr. Cole looked up from her console. Her face showed the strain of recent months, the grief of losing her husband still evident in her eyes. So should you. What are you working on? Wright asked. A modification to our shield harmonics. It should give us an extra edge against their weapons. Cole handed her a datapad. It's already being implemented across the fleet. Wright studied the technical specs, though much of it was beyond her understanding. Will it be enough? Dr. Cole sighed. It has to be. The Battle of Wolf 359 began at dawn, ship time. The Imperial fleet arrived in perfect formation, over 200 warships strong. They outnumbered the Alliance fleet nearly 2-1. Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the enemy ships appear on the tactical display. All ships, assume defensive positions, she ordered. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. The Empire ships opened fire first, a devastating barrage aimed at breaking through the Tauran defensive line. But the advanced armor held, absorbing punishment that would have destroyed any Empire vessel. Then the Alliance fleet responded. Smaller, faster ships darted between the Imperial formations, firing precisely at vulnerable points. Weapons developed by combining technologies from multiple Alliance species cut through Imperial shields like they weren't there. The Imperial commander, expecting an easy victory, found his fleet surrounded. His rigid formations, perfect for the set-piece battles the Empire was used to, became a liability against the fluid, adaptive tactics of the Alliance. 3 hours into the battle, The Imperial flagship was disabled by a precision strike from the Defiant. 6 hours in, the remaining Imperial vessels began to retreat. "Should we pursue?" asked Commander Chen from Tactical. Admiral Wright shook her head. "No. Let them go. They need to deliver our message." The Battle of Wolf 359 became a defining moment for the Alliance. They had faced the full might of the Imperial fleet. And won. The cost was high: 17 ships lost, hundreds of crew members killed or injured. But the Empire had lost far more. The next day, a message arrived from the Imperial Admiral requesting negotiations. In a historic moment, the Empire agreed to meet not on neutral ground, but on Earth, the planet they had once deemed unworthy of joining their galactic community. As Wright prepared for the arrival of the Imperial delegation, she could hardly believe how far they had come. From rejection to resistance to revolution, humanity and their allies had changed the power balance of the galaxy forever. 20 years had passed since Earth was rejected by the Galactic Empire. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The once mighty empire had fractured into 3 distinct entities: the Core Systems Confederacy, made up of former Empire loyalists, the sovereign neutral worlds who chose independence, and the dominant Proxima Alliance, now encompassing over 50 species and hundreds of worlds. Earth had transformed from an isolated planet to a central hub of interstellar politics, trade, and cultural exchange. The New York City skyline now featured buildings with architectural influences from a dozen alien worlds, and the streets below bustled with humans and non-humans alike. Admiral Allison Wright, now retired at age 68, stood at the observation deck of the newly established Alliance Grand Library. Her hair was completely white now, and she walked with the help of a cane, but her eyes remained as sharp and determined as ever. Below her stretched a vast hall filled with knowledge from all the Alliance worlds, the most comprehensive collection of information in known space. Ambassador Catherine Rivera, daughter of the legendary Daniel Rivera, who had helped forge the first alliances, joined Wright at the window. She had followed in her father's footsteps, becoming one of Earth's most respected diplomats. "Hard to believe it all started with a rejection," Rivera said, looking out at the holographic map of Alliance space that dominated the center of the library. The glowing points of light showing Alliance worlds far outnumbered the smaller territories still held by the remnants of the Empire. Wright nodded. "Your father used to say it was the best thing that ever happened to us. I thought he was crazy at the time." "He was right," Rivera said. "If we had been accepted into the Empire, we would have been just another member world, bound by their rules and limitations. Instead, we built something better," Wright finished. "Something more equal, more innovative." Dr. Samantha Cole had not lived to see this day. She had died 5 years earlier, working until the end on new technologies to improve life across the Alliance. But her legacy lived on in the Cole Institute of Advanced Sciences, where researchers from dozens of species collaborated on projects that would have been impossible under the Empire's restrictive policies. Wright's attention was drawn to a commotion near the library's main entrance. A tall, slender figure with iridescent scales had just arrived, accompanied by several human officials. The visitor was Arcturian, the same species as the minister who had announced Earth's rejection 20 years ago. "Is that who I think it is?" Rivera asked, squinting slightly. "Yes," Wright confirmed. "That's Ambassador Vexlor. He arrived yesterday to formally request Alliance membership for Arcturia." The irony was not lost on either of them. The Arcturians, once founding members of the Empire, now sought to join the alliance created by those they had rejected. Captain Frank Dawson, Wright's protege and current commander of the EF's Unity, stepped forward to greet the Arcturian delegation. Dawson had been a young officer when the Pathfinder made its first journey, and now he represented the next generation of Alliance leadership. "Welcome, Ambassador," Dawson said warmly. "We've been expecting you." The Arcturian bowed in the human manner, a gesture of respect that would have been unthinkable during the Empire's height. "Captain Dawson, it is an honor to be received here. My people have much to learn from the Alliance. From her vantage point, Wright watched the interaction with satisfaction. The wheel had turned full circle. Those who once looked down on humanity now sought their partnership and protection. "What are you thinking?" Rivera asked, noting the small smile on Wright's face. "I'm thinking about that day on Centauri Prime, standing before the Council," Wright replied. "They thought they were closing a door on us. Instead, they gave us the universe. Below them, humans and aliens moved through the Great Library, sharing knowledge, ideas, and friendship. Children from a dozen worlds played together in the library's garden. Ships from across the Alliance arrived and departed from Earth's orbital stations, carrying goods, travelers, and new possibilities. The Empire had tried to isolate humanity. Instead, they had set them free to create something greater than the Empire had ever been. A true community of worlds, united not by control but by cooperation and mutual respect. As the sun set over New York, its light reflected off buildings of human and alien design alike, a perfect symbol of the new galactic order that had emerged from rejection and grown into something remarkable.